I always think about learning and how do we learn faster, right? I know in the past I've kind of stifled my own learning because I haven't really wanted to learn from others. But I think there's two types of learning, and there's a level of learning that a lot of people don't talk about. And I want to talk about in this video how we could actually use everything around us to learn a lot faster. So I thought about this when there's more of what I like to call intention learning, and I don't know if I would call it passive learning. I actually have a note on here on the wall. Let me see where it's at. What did I call it? What did I call it? What did I call it? Observable knowledge. That's what I was thinking. There's like an actual intention knowledge and there's observable knowledge. Now, what's the difference between actual knowledge and observable knowledge? Well, let's start with actual knowledge. Actual knowledge is anything that somebody teaches to you directly. So say you go learn a program or a system, or you're in class, you're in school, you're in a business, they're training you for work. All these things are actual knowledge. They're going to teach you some type of process, some type of system, or you're going to learn some type of fact or anything that can be easily recalled, right? That's actual knowledge. And I'm speaking very loosely here when I say actual knowledge. I don't mean that in the sense that like a knowledge is power type thing. I'm just using it in the sense of talking about how to interpret the actual knowledge. Like things you look at, things you see are different than things that are actually taught to you, right? So that's how I'm defining it here. But then there's observable knowledge. And this was one of the things that I think was, or it's something that I've never really heard a lot of people talk about. Somebody may have talked about this, but I've never really heard somebody talk about it, so I'll just talk about it here. Observable knowledge is more the idea of stuff that you kind of view from people and you learn from them, but it's not explicitly taught. It's more implicitly taught. So let me give you an example. I remember being in a meeting with Matthew Knowles one time, and I was just listening to him talk, but I noticed he has a lot of skill for public speaking, right? Now, those are not things that I'm explicit. He's not telling me these things. I'm not learning these things from this person by them. Oh, this is what you should do. This is how you should do it. And this is how you should break down a speech. But I'm observing how they're doing something, and I'm saying, well, I can learn this from them. Let me see how I could take what I'm looking at and I could learn something here. Let's take that the same level. Let's say you watch a YouTube video, right? You could watch a YouTube video and it might teach you something. You might say, well, that taught me a good concept. I like that. And you could leave it there. You just got some type of actual transferable knowledge, right? But then you could look at the video and say, well, how do they set up the camera? How do they do the cuts in their videos? Did it start with a title? Did it not start with a title? Is this person here speaking in a certain way? How do they speak? How do they structure their talks? How do they do all these types of things? This is stuff that you're observing, which is what I like to call observable knowledge. And observable knowledge is something you can take from absolutely every person in the world. Nobody doesn't give off observable knowledge. So this is where the concept of saying, well, even if a person is somebody that can't teach you something directly, say you're a very high level business executive, or maybe you're somebody who works with charities. Maybe you're just somebody who's very smart or very intelligent, right? I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, but every time you look at somebody, you could learn something from them, right? You could learn how not to do something. I mean, that's the simple way you could learn it. Like I've had friends and family, they tell me stuff and I say, well, I've seen you go that route and I think I'll go another route, right? And then I've had some friends and I've had people around me, especially mentors, who've told me stuff and I just, wow, that was something, that was like one of those nuggets of knowledge that I needed. But then I look at observed other things. So a big thing I like to do when observing people is just what type of habits do they have? Like the successful people, what type of habits do they have? A lot of times I read books from successful people, not so much because I want to learn just the base level stuff. Because I think once you read a lot of books, you'll start learning base level stuff or universal principles. You'll start kind of hearing them over and over again. And I love to hear the universal principles reinforced, but what I'm talking about more specifically is what type of habits does somebody have? So, for example, if I read a book of somebody who's very successful, anybody you picture who's successful, I don't know, but let's just use somebody simple like a Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or some of these really high-level business people that have seen a lot of success, right? We look at them, the thing I'm wondering is not so much what are they thinking, what is their business strategy? Because of course you could go look through some type of business history book and see, oh, this was the strategy that Apple used. And of course you should use that when it comes to business, but you, as far as developing yourself, if they're the type of person and they're at the level you want to get to, what type of habits do they have? How do they get up in the morning? What type of beliefs do they have? You don't have to copy somebody's beliefs, but you need to think about what type of habit, what led their actions to do the things they did. So if you're trying to become a visionary, well, the best thing I would say is to go look at observable knowledge of visionaries. Look at speeches that they do. Look at other stuff that they do. If it's somebody in your family you admire, you just like the way they work, well, then just observe. Observe and see what type of observable knowledge you can get. This is what I try to do with everybody. Every video I watch, every person I'm around, if they have something that they do that's better than me, and there's a lot of people out there that are better than me at a lot of different things. But if I'm looking at them and I'm trying to learn from everybody, this is where the true power comes from. Because when you're willing to learn and you let go of the ego, there's scarcely anything you can't do. There's really nothing you can't do because all around you is observable knowledge. I don't care if it's a homeless person. If you look at a homeless person, you might think there's nothing I can learn from this person, right? But just look at their habits. What are they doing? What are they doing every day that led them to that position? Let's look at somebody who makes money, somebody who's rich. What do they do every day that leads them to that position? What can you observe? So it's not always about looking at people and judging them for what they have or what they do. It's more about looking at people and saying, hey, what can I learn? What can I observe? Even when you're looking at people who are at a level you want to get to, that are mentoring you, don't just look at what they teach you. Don't just say, oh, they told me this and they said this to me and I learned this. This is some little nugget of knowledge that I can use later. Look at the other stuff they do. Look at the small stuff they do. Look at the things that you might not necessarily learn explicitly from them. And look at the stuff that's more learned implicitly, more implied learning. So think about actual knowledge. And like I said, once again, when I say actual knowledge, I'm not talking about whether it's real or factual. I'm just talking about stuff that's actually taught to you. And then think of observable knowledge. What can you observe from somebody that's going to really allow you to see some things and learn some things that are not necessarily taught to you directly by the person? Like and subscribe for more. Just a thought.